Okay, I'm Charlie Bear. I have no middle name, it's straight Charlie Bear, number 3. My Indian name is Watkumatu, Crazy Bear. I am originally from the river where I was raised along the Milk River. My grandfolks come from Lodgepole, Medicine Bear. I was born in Missoula, Montana in 1950, August 5th. I am Nakoda Assiniboine. There's Benjamin George Bear, Assiniboine. My mother is Irma Snell Bear, Assiniboine. Yeah, Charlie Bear was my grandfather, and my grandmother was Mabel Lodge. And on my mother's side, Dick Snell, Richard Snell, and Carrie Lemon. It's Chuck and one daughter that was deceased. It means that that's my identity. That's where I came from. And my history goes back to Chief Medicine Bear was my great-great-grandfather. My great-great-grandmother was Iron Cradle from the Medicine Bear clan. But mostly what it means to me is that I am is my identity, and that's important, I think, to everybody is their identity, where they came from and who they are and who their relatives are. Okay, I went to school in Harlem when I was 6 years old. I went to grade school I went to Harlem High School until I was 19, and I graduated from there in 1970. And I went on to school in Haskell Indian Junior College, and I graduated there in 1972. And I went back to school at Fort Belknap Aaniiih, Nakoda College in 1989. I graduated there in 1990, I believe it was. Yeah, I remember my third grade teacher, her name was Mrs. Chasey. My second grade teacher was Miss McDermott. And my first grade teacher, I don't remember her. And my fifth grade teacher was Mrs. Knutson. And my sixth grade teacher was Mr. Woods. And seventh grade teacher was Joe Nemish. And my eighth grade teacher was, I think that was all the ones I remember in grade school. In high school, one of my teachers was Dale Milan, and Mr. Hoover, Miss Eglin, Franks, I think his name was. Last name was Franks. And my coach was Gary Eckergren, Mr. Franks. Yeah, them two are coaches, I think. Oh, oatmeal, soup, fried potatoes, breakfast, bacon and eggs, ham and eggs, but mostly, I guess, soup and steak, meat, beef, and some wild game, deer, elk, and antelope, and pheasant, prairie chicken, and that's about it. It's mostly grown up. What I do for fun was like to hunt, fish, ride horses, just travel or visit, hang out with my friends. Yeah, my grandfather did. My grandfather was the only one who spoke Nakoda, and my dad, well, my dad and my uncle too, yeah. But they only spoke it if they were drinking, and they wouldn't teach me it. They said I wouldn't be using it no more, so they wouldn't teach it to me. That was back in the 50s. Well, I lived in Lawrence, Kansas in high school. I lived in Missoula. I lived in Butte, Montana. I lived in Harlem. I lived in Chinook. That's about it. It was a good school. It was kind of was lonely to be there before when I first went to because I didn't know anybody and I was the only one there. I wasn't the only one there, but we were kind of separate and didn't. Then on the second semester, a lot of people came from Fort Belknap there, so then we got to know more people there and we knew them and we got to hanging out more together and it was a good place to go to school. I played football there and then. I worked for a farmer there out of Lawrence, Kansas. And it was good there, but during the summer it was too hot and too humid. I didn't care for it. So. Well, when I first went to work, I branded calves for Louis Gilbert Ranch, and I hauled hay for Clinton Love, and I trailed cows with Bardno for him and for Floyd Fry and for Wallace Warbert. When I first went to work, yeah, that's what I did. I mostly did farm and ranch work. No, I wasn't taught traditionally. I was mostly raised as a Christian, and my folks did some things traditionally as far as traditional family things, but it was mostly Christian. And my grandfather was only traditional Charlie Bear. He taught me how to hunt and how to make a bow and arrow and how to, and those things, a whistle, spear. Taught me some of my language, Assiniboine language that I first heard from him. Yeah, I did. Just went to church just about every Sunday. I first went to church, that pink church on a hill there along the highway. It's my first place where I went to church. It was a Catholic church, and they were teaching in Latin, and we didn't understand them, so we left. And then the next time I went to church was down there. That old log church in Lodgepole was down there along the river there across from Bigby's. It was, pastor was Mr. Herringer. It was a Christian Missionary Alliance Church, same kind of church they have here in Hayes. It's across from the old store there. And that's where I first went to church and I went to church pretty regularly then when I was younger. Well, it seems to be more traditional. It's both. I guess it's half and half, but it seems to be more traditional as I'm older now. Anyway, that I kind of look and learned a lot different from what I was brought up when I was a kid, and from what I am now and what I know about it and stuff. But I'm still Christian. I read my Bible, pray, and go to church, and I believe that I'm a born again Christian. Something that the elders of Fort Belknap need. They need a home, kind of like a rest home, or they need someone to take care of them that's on the reservation, to come and cook for them or clean for them, things like that. We had that at one time, but I don't know what happened to it. They lost it or something, but I don't think they do that anymore. That's what I know of. But I think that's one of the biggest things that our elders need here is someone to take care of them, and it's on a reservation to where they take them to when they need to give them a ride to town and to the powwows, and they need to gather more together. They're starting to do that now, but I hope it continues on like that. So I think that's what the elders need most here. Do I know any Nakoda words? I know my name, which is Wicko Mato, that crazy bear. Mato bear. Don't know too much of them. I went to a class for a Assiniboine. It was taught by Nora Helgerson, and I went to one with Peter Bigstone and Harris Rock. That's where I picked up some of the words that I know, and I don't know real good, but I do know some words, know what they mean, and I probably could, know better and know no more for them. Anyway. But that's just the main ones I understand is who my family is and what their names were, what their Indian names were. Like my grandfather was Medicine Bear, and my my grandmother was Iron Cradle, and I don't know my grandpa's Indian name. My father's Indian name was Ketchum Pagan. I don't know how you say that in Assiniboine. My mother didn't have an Indian name that I'm aware of. My uncle Wallace Bear's Indian name was White Wolf. My uncle Roger Longknife, I don't remember his Indian name. But those were my family when I was raised. I was raised with my grandfather Charlie Bear, my uncle Roger Longknife, and then my grandpa Richard Snell and Carrie Lemon Snell, and my uncles on that side, Snells, and then my other uncle Wallace Bear and that family. Yeah, those were the ones that I was around most and raised most with. Those close relatives of Bears, the Snell family, and are married to it. Today it's a lot more better than it was when I was a kid, because when I was raised down in the valley, and we didn't have no bathroom facilities. We used an outhouse, and we bathed in a square tub. And we had electricity, and we had wood heat. And today everything is, you got TV, you got phones, internet. We never had that. We never had no phones, and when I went to school, never had no internet. People were more social then, seemed like, than now, because then a lot of people got around and they came around and visited each other. And now some people don't hardly come around anymore, even with the family. Their family don't come around anymore. And a long time ago, we used to be all family together a lot. Now it don't seem to be that way. It seems to be kind of alone, I guess, separated, and more Western, I guess, than it was in. Everybody's caught up into TV or phone, or they have no more social. A social thing is different than when I was a kid. Yeah, because when I was we all hung around together, and we all rode horses together, and we all kind of stayed with each other, and we all kind of worked together. And where it's kind of different now, everybody kind of isolates and certain bunch to them, but they don't socialize with the older bunch or middle class or younger adults and things like that. It seems that way to me anyway. Well, I don't think that we had much of a choice to sell that. I mean, it was, from my understanding from the history I read on it, is that it was either or. Either you sell it to us or you're going to starve. And that's what they told our old people, that you either sell us that notch or you're going to cut your rations and you was going to starve. So they had no choice. And I think that was a very injustice thing that they did to our people here. And I think that needs to be compensated for. I don't know if it ever was compensated for, but I think it needs to be compensated. Both tribes, because that was a thing that was forced on us, and the old timers didn't have no choice. They wanted to take care of their family and stuff, and so they agreed to it. They really didn't have no choice. If they didn't, they would get their rations cut, or they were going to tell them that they were going to starve. And so that's how I view that. I think there's still some treaty rights there yet that probably need to be brought up or recognized for as far as the timber and the hunting access and those things like that. Yeah. Powwows were a part of my life when I was a kid. I used to ride a horse to a powwow, and we rode around the powwows, and then we sat there and watched them dance, watched the powwow ceremonies. We weren't too much involved in the ceremony that I know of. It was mostly a social gathering back then, and everybody socialized. Now it's more commercial. Yeah, they probably made it, you go to a powwow now, and you get first prize singer, first prize dancers, and it's mostly all commercialized. And it should be more socialized, I think, like it was back in the older days. Well, the biggest impact on my life, I think, would have been my father and my uncle, my mother. Those would be the people that had the biggest impact on my life. And then later, my family, my son and his mother. But that would be the biggest impact on my life would have been my family. I think they're one now. Everybody's intermarried and everybody's related, so they're pretty much one now. It's the only thing that separates them is that they're different treaties. They got different. Nakoda has a different treaty, and the Grove One have a different treaty, and that's pretty much what separates them. But and some of the land, but they're pretty much one and the same now, I believe. They got their own language. We got our own language, but I could go back. I'm just about related to everybody here. I got a lot of Grove One relatives. I got a lot of Assiniboine relatives, both in Hayes, Lodgepole, and down the river. And I got relatives in Wyoming and Arapahoe. I got relatives in Fort Peck. And they have relatives in Browning for the Blackfeet. So a lot of these tribes are pretty much interrelated now, a lot. Intermarried, and you go way back in time, and a lot of them were raided on. And then when they did the raids, they took horses and they took women. And so when that happened, that kind of spread the tribe out more. What tribe they ever raided was the Assiniboine or Grove One tribe. I guess the only thing I could probably is my life. My life, I was born in, I could say Missoula, Montana, in 1950, August 5th, 1950. And I moved to Butte. My dad was a miner. He worked in the copper mines there in Butte. And a lot of people there from here worked there then, I remember. There was a lot of my dad's friends there that worked there. And a lot of them, I remember from when I was there. But I was just a young kid. I was only about 5 or 6 years old when we lived there. And we moved back here when I was about 5 or 6 at the same time. And I went to school in Harlem, and we moved into my grandfather house, the log house, along the highway there just up from the Pink Church. And we lived there till my dad leased a farm or a ranch down along the river. Was the old Gill place, and they left it, and so he got the lease on it, and we moved in there, and he started ranching and farming, and he was one of the biggest ranchers and farmers on the reservation back then. And we had a lot of cows and a lot of livestock and a lot of land leased up, and that was one of the best times of my life anyway, is when I lived in the country on a ranch, and rode horses, and we rode colts, the big horses. I had to get up early in the morning, milk about 7 cows before I went to school, and did a lot of other chores. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that had the biggest influence on me, was getting up and doing chores, because that restructured my life, and I had something that I hung on to and made me what I am now, and put discipline in my life, and it put structure, and that's the main thing: structure and discipline, and your identity, the main things in your life. If you got structure and you got discipline and identity, then and education was a must. I had to go to school, and what we were taught in schools wasn't factual or wasn't true. It was kind of skimmed over, especially about Native Americans. And I think I learned more from my father and from my research than I did in school. But that's pretty much I lived in down the valley. My neighbors were the Perez family and the Shoal family. And The Buck family and Snell family lived along. There was a bunch of them lived in the valley at that time. Kings, owls, weasels, all lived down the valley. Spig thunders, first grade, blackbirds, and big bees, horns. They all lived in the valley. We all caught a bus to would come down, pick us all up, and take us to the Harlem school. We went to school there. That was, my where I went to school. And then after I graduated from high school in 1970, I went to high school. I played ball there in 1 year, so when I hurt my knee and I couldn't play that good anymore, so I kind of let it go. And then I graduated from high school in 1972 with automotive, so I was kind of a certified mechanic. I came back and I couldn't really get a good job. I didn't have no tools, and they'd hire you if you had tools, and I tried to get tools, but I couldn't. They wouldn't help me with any tools, so then I had to go to work on a farm or a ranch, and I bucked a lot of bales, and worked for different ranchers and different farmers, hauling hay and trailing cows, branding, breaking horses, those types of things, rodeos. And used to run a chariot in chuck wagon days, rodeo. And along with the Coles and Gettons and Snyders, we all competed there. Joe Brown, he was a bareback rider now, still here with us. So that, pretty much was my life. And then after that, I, met my wife, and I moved to Hayes, and we had Chuck and a little girl named Patty Marie, and then she passed away at birth. And then everybody used to socialize a lot and use alcohol a lot. So that's a lot of what happened to our people. We got involved with alcohol. Back then, there wasn't too much drugs then, but mostly alcohol. And a lot of them, it corrupted us as a family, and corrupted our way of life. And like I say, we didn't have ceremonies then. Back then, it didn't become legal till 1978, when Jimmy Carter signed our Religious Freedom Act for the Native Americans. Then it was opened up. Everything else was done underground, and the ceremonies, sweat lodges, and some of the dance powwows. But after that, it opened it up, and more of our people became out and open about it now, like it is. So that's good, and that's what we need. But that corruption and that historic trauma, it interrupted our people, both sides of our people, and brought a side to our people that were difficult to deal with, and a lot of people had problems from that, and they still suffer from that today. The historic trauma, what happened to their families and their grandfolks, going off to sporting schools and going to the mission school, and how they were treated, and they couldn't have any traditional ceremonies, or they couldn't wear their hair long, and if they were, they were beaten, and so a lot of that impacted our people, and it still impacts them today, and still has results of that impact has gone into the alcohol and drug. And that's the biggest thing here that impacts us is alcohol and drugs. And it's negative. So what's going to help us mostly is, education and getting back to who we are, knowing who we are, where we came from, and our ceremonies and our education. A lot of us, like I say myself, I wasn't raised a Christian or traditional. I was raised Christian, and I didn't know nothing about my traditions and ceremonies until I researched them and found out about them and went to some of them. And that's pretty much where I'm at with it now, is that I recognize both. I recognize myself as being a Nakoda, a Assiniboine. I have my identity, and that's how God created me. And He gave me those ways, and I also recognize that I'm a Christian, and that God is my Savior, Jesus Christ, and it wasn't His doing that did that to us. It was man that did that to us. The Catholic Church, the Christians, those that did that to us. And but I cannot disown that, because that's who I am and what I am, and that's the way I believe. But I also, like I say, I'm a Nakoda, Assiniboine, and that's my identity, and that's was given to me by God. He's given us those ways and those traditions and those ceremonies, and that's okay. It's all right, and that's how we're going to come out of that as a people. And you can see a lot of that now. A lot of that came back, and a lot of people are doing that and feel better in their identity. We have a good education system here in the schools, and they need to let us do the things that we were given. And a lot of that stuff is gone, it's lost, but still there's a lot of it there that we can learn and go from. So it's okay to be a Assiniboine, it's okay to be Grow. It's okay to wear your hair long. It's okay to go to a powwow. It's okay to pray or do ceremony anyway. God ain't gonna deny you that. He's not gonna deny you that, because He gave that to you and He created you that way. That's how I believe, and that's just what I would like to express on our people. That it's to get out and hustle, make your way, make your own way. Go to work, get a job, get a good education, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay, and it's us as a people. That's our identity, and we need to continue on with that.